covering all 4 major sports in the District of Champions. It's the DC Crossover Podcast with your hosts, Mike Cerrone and Ben Simpson.
Hello and welcome to episode number 99 of the DC Crossover. I am Ben Simpson. That is Mike Cerrone, as we are one episode away from the big 100 next week. You can follow the show on social media at the DC Crossover on Twitter or at Cerrone16 for Mike's account. And you can, of course, catch us on the Contender. That's Contender with a K. Go download the app today. If you download the app and show proof that you have it downloaded, you can DM the Contender on Twitter with a picture of a screenshot of your screen showing you have the app. You can get a free bottle opener. So that's a little fun thing you can do and support the show at the same time. But yeah, one episode away from the big 100. We didn't even time it up this way that this upcoming weekend is Super Bowl weekend. So you get to enjoy the Super Bowl on Sunday, and then you get to settle in to episode number 100 of our show on Monday. So it's going to be a fun couple days. I don't have any big Super Bowl plans, Mike. I've been trying to eat a lot healthier here in 2022, so I'm really trying not to blow all my progress in one night. So I'm going to do my best to not go too crazy. I might get some wings or something like that. Where does your mind go when it comes to Super Bowl food? Where are you thinking? What are you thinking as far as Super Bowl Sunday this year?
So typically every single year we go to my parents' house, because obviously we would all been local and everything like that. But I don't know if this year we'll be going to my parents' house, because obviously that's the one thing about Super Bowl Sunday is that everyone complains about it, that it should be like a day off the next day, and
make it a Saturday instead of Sunday.
Right. Yeah, because you already get 2 weeks off anyways. I just don't get it. Like, it's not like, oh, yeah, it's a short week because we have to put the Super Bowl on Saturday. Like, no, it's not. They're having media week and stuff.
They're going to have a killer ratings book regardless. If they moved it back a day to Saturday night, it still would dominate the ratings. And this year's Super Bowl, I bet, does really well, I bet.
I think so,
because you get the new fan bases into, like Cincinnati, they haven't been to the Super Bowl in forever. You got the Rams, of course, LA, big market there. I think for NFL fans, you have two teams that I can't see people like hating either of these teams. I guess you could hate LA because it's LA, and some people like to hate anything LA, and I get that. And because you could say like, oh, they're a super team or whatever. But I mean, so is every team that's good in the NFL for the most part. But I just think the ratings are going to be bananas. Plus, the halftime show too is pretty stacked, so this could get interesting.
Yeah, it's just one of those things that the NFL does not do right, which, like you said, they should put it on Saturday where everyone can stay up. There'll be more bets. There'll be drinking and smoking and joking and all this kind of stuff, and everyone would have parties and whatnot. But I think that honestly, one of the things that it just popped in my mind that they actually are thinking of is if it's on a Saturday, they're not going to get the ratings bonuses and all that kind of stuff because of the sole fact that ratings boost, I should say, because of the sole fact that everyone's going to be, say, at one person's house instead of watching on their own TVs where, it's a work night and everything like that. President's Day, of course, doesn't happen to be on that Monday.
That would have been just imagine if we had gotten President's Day, because I do have that day off of work this year.
Yep.
And then obviously schools being closed. I mean, it's such a tough thing because I've been to Super Bowl parties in the past. And it's one of those things where you end up having to leave at like halftime because you're like, I got to watch the rest of the game at home because this thing is going to end at 11 o'clock or something like that. And I'm not going to drive home from somebody's house at 11 o'clock, and
it starts at 6:30.
Yeah.
That's the funny thing.
It starts at 6:30 and you'd think it would end at like, 9:30 at the latest. But we all know these games go till like 11 o'clock because you got the longer halftime and then just more and more commercials. So like,
yep.
It's just one of those things that's tough. I mean, I remember going to a buddy's house for the Super Bowl for the Atlanta and Pats Super Bowl, and leaving at halftime being like, yeah, this one's in hand, and just like the rest of the country got that. But It's tough. I mean, this year will surely be at home. I will likely fall asleep before the end of this thing. I'm gonna try my best to stay up, but like, I get up at like 5:50 in the morning. I mean, what do you people want from me? You know?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I usually go to my parents' house, but actually, I should say, I usually either go to my parents' house or my aunt's house. But it's just kind of weird nowadays because my sister, her kids are a little bit older, so it's not like, oh, they don't have to go to school tomorrow because they're 4 years old or whatever.
Right.
So they have to go to school the next day, and I don't know how long they would be able to stay up. I don't even know what their bedtime is, to be honest with you. Because obviously I'm the fun uncle and I let them stay up however late they want when they slept over at my place.
For sure.
But that's just the thing is I'm probably going to go to my buddy's house that's right down the road. It's about 10 minutes away. I have school the next day, but at the same time, it's not a big deal. Or I should say, I always say school. It's kind of weird when I say, oh, I have to go to school.
Yeah, Mike's got to go to class.
Yeah. I bet the people that are listening are just like, this guy is like 20 years old. But
I feel like there's an expectation that the Monday things don't really get done that well.
Right.
Like,
well, my co-teacher said that she's thinking of taking off. And I said,
smart move.
This was about 2 weeks ago, and then she got COVID, and she said, "Oh well, I just took off 5 days, even though it did not go against her leave." She said, "I feel weird taking off another day after just getting 8 subs or whatever."
Right. That's true.
So
that's true. Yeah.
It's just one of those times where it's Super Bowl. You never really know what the best idea is, but the food selection, as you mentioned, is crucial, because I just texted my buddies and said, hey, let's all bring an app. You don't have to bring something big.
Right.
My girlfriend has her banging buffalo chicken dip. That thing is on point, and she does it in the crock pot all day, kind of like you do in your mac and cheese.
Sure.
And so she does a crock pot all day. My other buddy said he's going to make pigs in a blanket. And then my other guy said that he's going to go to Parando's, which is a little seamless plug for his family's restaurant, stuff like that. But the funny thing
this show has a history with Parando's.
Oh yeah, and the funny thing, you dive deep in the internet, you'll see something. But the funny thing is,
live show at Parando's.
Oh yeah. When it's 22 degrees in spring. And the funny thing about that is that they all. So my one of my buddies has about a 1 year old, and then the other two have 2 kids, and they're under 4 each, I think. But they're still, they're old enough to, walk around, whatever. But the funny thing about it is last time when we went to go watch and they're not, this one guy, I don't really care about talking about his kid, because he's not gonna be listening anyways.
No.
But so the kids were just like running around and all that kind of stuff, and like we were like, all right, so it was the Bengals and Raiders game, and we're sitting there watching the game, right? And I'm sitting there and I'm just like watching, enjoying, and all of a sudden his kid starts jumping on the couch next to me, and I'm just like.
Ooh.
I mean, I deal with this on a daily basis, so it's kind of annoying, but at the same time, just like whatever, I deal with it anyways at work. But then I'm looking at it, and then all of a sudden he starts throwing the pillows everywhere, and I'm like, oh, geez,
chaotic kid.
Yeah, and then they're not telling him to stop, and then he starts trying to grab the pillow that I'm leaning against on the couch. And I said, this kid is
sock him in the face.
No. Oh no, I leaned back harder, and all of a sudden you hear this. He's like grunting, trying to take the pillow that I'm leaning. And it's like, oh my God. So apparently the Super Bowl is going to have these same group of kids there and stuff like that. And I'm just like, hey, I'm going to sit there. I'm going to drink. I don't care. And I'm going to sit in the corner and just sit there rocking back and forth in the nice chair that my buddy has, and not worry about the kids running into the walls of that, because it ain't my house.
No, you don't have to. All you have to do is find the best spot to post up.
Well, I will.
And just sit back with drinks all night, food all night, and just enjoy the game. That's the way to do things for the Super Bowl. So I'll keep you in the loop of what I end up consuming, but we will also be doing some fun stuff for our 100th episode. So maybe we'll preview some of that on Twitter or something along those lines. We'll let you guys know. Let's hit up the rewind machine. A lot to get to on this episode tonight. We will start with the Washington football team. We're going to get into this more in depth in the actual segment, but of course, the big name announcement this past week, the Washington Commanders, or the DC Commanders, however you want to say it, It is definitely a new era in D.C., a lot to talk about with that. But again, we'll get into that a little bit later. What about the Washington Capitals week, Mike? Because a little up and down here this week, but pretty great win to start off that week last week on Tuesday.
So this was All-Star weekend, obviously. So they only had 2 games, one on Tuesday and a back-to-back on Wednesday. Tuesday was a great thriller win against the Penguins in overtime, 4-3. Dmitry Orlov scores second goal, including the winner in overtime. So 2 goals for Orlov, but Nick Dowd and Daniel Sprong also scored as well, tallying 1 each, and the Caps won 5 of their last 9 games, starting with that Penguins win for this week. And then Ilya Samsonov made 43 saves, replacing Vitek Vanacek, who left in the first period with an injury very, very, very early in that first period.
Right.
But then obviously this next game wasn't so great for Ilya Samsonov, who had to start the game because of Vanacek, who was in concussion protocols, where they lost to Edmonton 5-3. And that was going off the rails really quick. I believe it was 3-0 in the first 4 minutes for Edmonton. Mm-hmm. And this was obviously without Alexander Ovechkin because he entered COVID protocols, missed the All-Star game. There was I don't know why there's so many tributes to Alexander Ovechkin. It made no sense in the All-Star game, but
yeah, that's as far as we know, he's not retiring right now.
He's not dead.
No.
It was just kind of weird. Like everyone's like playing homage to Ovi. It's like the dude is like top 3 in points. Like relax. And Lars Eller, Konashiri, and Evgeny Kuznetsov all scored for the Caps, tying it up at 3. Then 2 late goals for Edmonton ended up giving them the victory, 5-3. Ilya Samsonov was the goalie who led in those first 3 goals with only 1 save. So 3 goals to 1 save, not a great ratio there. But Phoenix Copley came in, replaced him, did an admirable job, basically coming up. And he wasn't really the best goalie over the last couple of years that we have seen him in spots, but he did an admirable job against a really good team in the Edmonton Oilers. Tom Wilson makes his first All-Star appearance at the end of the week. He scored the first goal for the Metro Division 13 seconds into the game. Him and Kuznetsov definitely showed off for the Caps this past weekend. But moving on to the Wizards, who have a little bit more controversy surrounding them.
Yeah, tough week for the Wiz. We talked about it last week on the show. This was going to be a rough stretch. And for the most part, it was. I mean, losing to the Bucks on Tuesday, 112-98. Giannis with the triple-dub, 33 points, 15 and 11. This was the 6th straight loss for the Wiz. Beal did not play this game or any of the games this week. Are out with ankle injury. Wednesday, one of the weird things about this Wizards team this year is they have found a way to beat Philly. They beat them now twice now. And they did again, 106-103. Spencer Dinwiddie scored the go-ahead bucket with about 90 seconds left in the game. Had his first career triple-double, which is nice. And then you look at the shooting stats, 4 of 16 from the field, kind of going along with the way his season has gone. But the Wizards do get the win, and Montrezl Harrell adds a nice 14 points in the game as well. And then Saturday, you're playing against one of the best teams in the league, Phoenix Suns. And this was not pretty. Wiz lose 95-80. Yes, they only scored 80 points in the game, only scoring 11 in the second quarter and only 33 points in the first half. Phoenix...
33 points.
Yeah, 33 points in the half, people.
Jesus.
The game the other day, I was watching the Nets. They scored 70-something in the half, so practically double what the Wiz did in their half. Phoenix went on a 46-15 run early in this game.
That'll do it.
And the Wiz have now lost 5 of the last 6 at home, and they've been held under 100 points in 4 of their last 6. Ugly, ugly, ugly Washington Wizards, which we have some thoughts on them, which we'll get to a little bit. But let's get to the main reason we are gathered here today.
We are the Commanders.
And that is your Washington Commanders. Yeah, we're going to have to change the intro of the show. We're going to have to change some stuff now because we are the Commanders now, Mike. That is the new name. I mean, look, we get it. People have been talking about it for the last week. It just happens our show comes out on Monday. They make this announcement on, Tuesday or Wednesday last week. So
Yep.
We haven't been able to really dissect it. We talked about it a little bit on the Contender TikTok. So if you are somebody who is on TikTok, I know I shared a video. Mike's been sharing videos on there too. go follow The Contender on TikTok. I mean, we talk about our show and some others. But the big announcement, of course, we got some clips from the announcement to talk about. But Mike, as far as your gut your kind of your gut reaction when the name drop happened, where were you at immediately, and then like where are you at now that you've had some time to think about it?
Where I was at immediately, that's a good question, because honestly, there were, so many things that were circulating saying, oh, the Commanders, and all of a sudden they said the Commanders with the helicopter flyby and all that kind of stuff, with the signage that wasn't covered up and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Honestly,
the drone footage outside the stadium. Yeah, there was some leakage happening for sure.
Yeah, I'll get to the leaks here in a little bit. But the Commanders, when they first said it, and I'm not going to talk about the announcement just yet, because obviously we're going to get to the clips and everything. We'll have our reactions to it. But just the name, just talking about the name in general right now, I did not like it. I mean, especially with all the leaks and everything like that, I didn't like it. I think they could have easily done something different. I mean, if you're going to go military base, change the colors. Everyone kept saying, oh, well, if you change the colors, they're going to have an uproar. Well, you changed the name and there was a huge uproar. And now if you're changing the colors, if you're going to do everything, just do everything. It's called a rebrand for a reason. It's not, oh, let's keep the stadium, called this park or whatever. Well, let's change this, or, we'll keep this though. It's like, it doesn't matter. Like, if you're going to do a rebrand, do something completely different, because that's going to have something that people are going to look forward to, just for the sole fact of, hey, we got a new rebrand. This is our name, the Commanders. We're going straight camo, doing whatever you want to put on there, right? It doesn't matter what camo it is. Could be digital camo, could be all that kind of stuff. Do something crazy. Obviously, I've said millions of times to people over the last week that have been asking me about it, that you can literally do something similar to Navy Army games, where they have like some crazy, I mean, Navy had the Blue Angels and different stuff like that on their helmets, and just different things of that nature. Go rebrand, do full rebrand. Okay. Because now you're thinking about it, and they have the actual colors to the point where you have the colors out there. Now it's the lingering effect of the Redskins, where now everyone's like, "It should stay the Redskins. It should stay the Redskins."
Right,
okay.
Right.
Well, you have the burgundy and gold, and they're like, Doug Williams is all blabbing, which we'll get to hit one of his clips. He's just like saying, "Oh, I like the Commanders." Like, it's like, sweet. Like, no one on that stage, and I don't think anyone in that organization really feels like Commanders is like the real big thing. John Allen looked so uncomfortable on the stage, and it's like, the biggest thing about this name is, I'm not saying it's a horrible name. What I'm saying is, that wasn't the choice. Okay. Right. There are decisions in life that you have. And I'm not saying this is like a life or death decision. Let's be honest here. But there are decisions in life that you make, and they could be okay decisions, but they might not be the correct and right decision, and I don't know if that really makes any sense, but you're looking at this and saying, Commanders, okay, nothing wrong with it, whatever. But then all of a sudden you're looking at all the different backlash and vitriol that was all over social media when all those leaks were happening, saying, Commanders, oh, this name sucks. Okay, they took a poll of this, and they only had like 2% votes for Commanders. And they had, Admirals was over top of that. And Admirals, I think that name sucks too. But looking at it, it's just so funny, because in his clip, which I don't think this is in the clip that we have that I cut earlier, I think that Jason Wright kept saying that we did a rebrand for 5 total names. If you saw all this backlash, why in the world would you just say, we're going to stick with it? You have all these other brands out there. Pick a different one. Pick something. So you're looking at it, and I just think, if I go 0 to 10, 0 being ass, and then 10 being, I think we could say that right on our own podcast.
Yeah, that's fine.
10 being that, and then or 0 being that, then 10 being like, wow, this name is kick ass. I'm gonna keep saying it.
Right.
And I would give it at first, I would give it a 3. Now I would say it's a 5 for me. It's a middle of the road kind of name.
Yeah, like you said, it's not the worst name out there. The reality is this: 3 or 4 seasons from now, are we really going to look back and care about the name as much? Probably not as a fan base. I think we'll get used to it. just like we got used to. I mean, there were so many jokes about Washington football team when that name initially, when they were
Right.
like, this is going to be our name for now. And then eventually we actually kind of liked it. So it's a little different because I don't think we're going to love this name, but I also don't think we're really going to care. Some of the finalists that were reported by John Keim were Presidents, Red Hogs, Football Team Defenders, Armada, and Brigade. And then the unofficial finalists also were so those were all ones that didn't make the final round of cuts, and then the ones that did were Commanders, obviously, Red Wolves, and the Washington Football Club. Washington D.C. Football Club was a possible. So I guess like DCFC or something along those lines, which is soccer, So I feel like there would have been some backlash there, but yeah, I mean, Red Wolves obviously would have been interesting. Then they talked about how. The Wolves, you got the T-Wolves in the NBA, Arkansas State's the Red Wolves. I still think this team could have made it work, but they said they wanted to be
though?
unique.
I just don't get that. There's tons of Cardinals out there.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I mean,
I don't get it.
I don't get it either. But let's do this was the initial name reveal, which, by the way, I still think this is a very weird move that this was all done on the Today Show. I think this team should have done their own broadcast, like on YouTube or on all their social media platforms, and done it that way. What the hell does the Today Show have to do with any of this decision? Like why would I don't think the most Today Show viewers are 65-year-old women. Like what does that have to do with football at all? I can't tell you the last time I've even clicked on a clip from the Today Show. It's just not something that the fan base watches. So very weird move, but here we go.
Let's not make folks wait. Let's not drag it out, Jason. What is the new team name?
Doug, what is it?
We are the Commanders.
We are the Commanders.
The Commanders. The Washington Commanders.
That's
right. Okay. So that was, again, the whole thing was weird. The whole thing. We're going to definitely keep that drop for sure. It's just the whole thing was weird. Here's the Doug Williams clip you talked
Doug,
about.
so when you found out what the new team name was, what was the initial reaction?
Well, the reaction was, I'm gonna hug the Commanders, because that's what we are, and we got to go forward with it. And I do like the name. It got a good sound to it. Washington Commanders. So here we go.
What does that mean? I'm gonna hug the Commanders. It has a good ring to it. No, it doesn't. We talked about. I mean, Twitter's talked about it too. Like, anytime you have like a 3-syllable name in sports, you got to have an easy way to shorten it out. And like, there's just no way to do it with Commanders. Everybody makes the jokes. Call them the commies. Call them the commies. It's like, no, nobody's gonna call them the commies. And then it's like, we were joking about it on text. Like, do we call them the Manders? Like, what do we what do we call these guys?
I knew you haven't heard that clip before.
No, that's something, man.
It's like I'm gonna hug him. What?
The whole thing was weird. And Dan Snyder, anytime he wears his weird Washington gear, it just looks so strange because it's like, dude, you're not cool. You're just a nerdy, rich a-hole. Like, you're not relatable or any of that stuff. Here was the Jason Wright.
Let's talk about how we arrived at this particular name, Jason. How do we settle on the Commanders?
It's a name that has the weight and meaning befitting a 90-year-old franchise. It's something that broadly resonated with our fans. And it's something that we believe embodies the values of service and leadership that really define the DMV in this community. Yeah. And it's also something, importantly, that we could own and grow for the next 90 years. And it's something that can allow us to tie the rich history and championship legacy of this franchise to new traditions in the future.
What does Commanders have to do with the history of this franchise? Redskins and Commanders have no correlation whatsoever. They have nothing to do with each other. And what does Jason Wright mean by, we got some really great feedback from the fan base, loved this idea.
It resonates with the
fan base?
That's what I said in my tweet, is that I believe I said it in my tweet. I have to go back and look at it from last week. But I said, once again, actually, I'm going to go find that real fast. So the biggest thing when I looked at the name reveal and all that kind of stuff is, first of all, when you said on the Today Show, that's just stupid because everyone thought that or I guess Dan Snyder, whoever made that decision, thought, oh yeah, it's going to be nice because we're going to be on national TV. Like you said, no one watches the Today Show. That's just stupid.
Yeah, nobody's watching the show. Like, what would have been more beneficial is if they did it on their Twitter and YouTube pages, because then they could drive all the other the fans of other teams that were actually interested in this would have tuned into their Twitter account and they would have gotten a lot of YouTube views and all this sort of stuff. Why send it to the Today Show? It just doesn't make any sense in my eyes to that. That's an out of touch decision. It's an out of touch decision, just like the name selection process and just like this franchise has been for the last decade and plus has been out of touch with what the fans actually are interested in. And I know they did this whole big, fans drive to FedEx Field the other night. This was Friday or Saturday night. It was drive to FedEx Field, and they had a parking lot kind of quote unquote party or whatever where they gave away Commanders gear and stuff. And you got people on Twitter going oh yeah, me and all the other diehards were at FedEx Field doing this stuff. It's no, you're the ones that are so stupid to drive to FedEx Field on a Saturday in 20-degree weather in the rain. Get a life. This doesn't make you a better fan than Mike or I or whoever who sits and watches the game at home and talks about the game. That doesn't make you a better fan because you have no life that you drive to the stadium in the offseason to pick up a Commander's towel that you're going to use to wipe your ass later. It doesn't mean anything, and that doesn't make you a better fan than anybody else just because you went to go their dog and pony show, them trying to convince you that this is a good thing, because it's not. It's not a good name. But I don't know, it pissed me off the other day where I see people oh yeah, me and all the true fans were out there. It's go get a life. The rest of us were, doing other important things like eating pork chops and mashed potatoes or something. We weren't there driving to FedEx Field. It was raining and stuff too. It's
to get a beanie.
You're a loser. You're a loser if you drove to FedEx Field for the Commanders. I got my Commanders cup holder, or I got my Commanders little mouse pad. It's that doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything because the rest of us are all going to watch this team lose.
And they were giving those little tidbits away that
congratulations.
made no sense.
Now go buy your $250 jersey with a crappy logo. It's all so stupid.
So just to go along with the name reveal, we all know this name reveal was a botch. The name aside, I will get to my tweet here in a second about the name that I said last week. But literally, when you talk about the reveal, there is other reveals, in the past, like the Seattle Kraken. They did a really nice one.
Yeah, that was cool.
I don't remember exactly what the Knights did in Vegas, but at the same time, you're looking at this reveal they thought we're more important than we actually are. Yes, our franchise is worth $3.5 billion. It's in the top 15 or whatever in the world.
Oh yeah,
that doesn't mean we're important. We haven't been winning in decades.
Nobody cares about this team.
Literally, it's like the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Nobody cares about this team.
It's literally the Jacksonville Jaguars saying hey, let's go on the Today Show. No one cares about the Jags. No one cares about them. No one cares about us right now. Okay.
No.
You're looking at this team, and Dan Snyder is so full of it that he said, "Oh, we need to go on, national, TV and go on and announce the new name. This is going to be great, guys. We're going to get so much pub." And then all of a sudden, you're seeing literally Doug Williams, and I don't know if you saw the clip of him awkwardly hugging and leaning into John Allen, and John Allen's like, why am I here right now? Number one. Number two, why is this guy touching me? He leans in and he's he doesn't even know what camera to look at because he's looking at camera 3 when camera 2's on right now, and he's like, we are the Commanders.
They think we're all so stupid. They think we're going to see Doug Williams be like, well, if Doug loves it, then I'm going to love it. Because Doug Williams probably has CTE. Doug Williams doesn't even know he's there. Why would we care what Doug Williams thinks or what B. Mitch thinks? Shout out to him blocking the show account a couple of years back. Why would we care what these players think? I don't care what they think. I mean, yeah, you could like these guys. You can say, yeah, I loved when they played for my franchise, but what do you think they're going to say? You think this team is going to walk out a player that says, Commanders? That effing sucks. That's a terrible name. You think they're going to show you any of that? No, of course not. Because these players are probably getting paid.
Chase Young went on PFF, I believe it was, on Twitter. They said, what do you think about Commanders? 2 months ago, he said, F.
Yeah,
F.
he gave it an F grade, which is hilarious. So that's why that's how you know, like, this doesn't get anybody fired up. Nobody's like, oh yeah, Commanders. That gets me like, I'm pumped. Like Seattle Kraken. Now look, it wasn't gonna be like it was gonna be the DC Kraken for the football team, but still,
Right.
like Seattle Kraken. That's a name where you're like, that sounds badass. Like that gets me fired up. That's kind of cool and that sort of stuff. And this name, it's like, all right, we're the Commanders. I mean. We don't know. We don't have a cool nickname. The colors are basically the same, so you don't really need to add anything different. The logo is actually not very good. I looked at the gear the other day. It was like, I don't feel the urge to spend money on buying any of this new stuff because none of it really looks good. I just think they botched it, like you said. We're going to get used to it. All we care about, and I said this on TikTok, we just need this team to freaking win. Like, that's all that matters. I mean, call them whatever you want. If they win, we'll support them. Obviously, we'll support them if they lose, too. We did all season. Mike and I doing crappy post-game shows when the team's like, 2-10 or whatever. I mean, we're going to support this team, but at the end of the day, you guys botched this. You botched the name.
The name announcement, like I said, it was botched. They thought we were more important than we are. Instead of doing some cool, like, the video was pretty neat. It was neat. It was neat. It had some old school things on there. That's fine, whatever. And then they had Chase Young and John Allen and Terry McLaurin, out there saying we are the Commanders, like we had in our intro and stuff like that. Like that wasn't bad. Like they could have done something cool. Like make it a spectacle if you're going to do it. Like if you're going to go on the Today Show, you can't have Doug Williams awkward lean over and say and the president who doesn't even want to say the damn name. He sits there and he's like, Doug, hey, he starts pointing at him. He's like, oh, what is it, Doug? And it's like, and I think Doug was like you said, I don't even know if he knows what planet he's on right now.
Yeah,
he sat there and he's like, all right, and he like leans over, like it's like a 3-second thing. He leans over, and he's like,
it's so awkward.
It's so the name whole thing was a botch. So this is what I tweeted about the name and about their announcement in general. I said Dan Snyder and the organization botched this one, and we are actually surprised? ? Absolutely not. They had a month of leaks and backlash from fans saying they did not like the idea of the Commanders, and yet they decided that the fans don't matter. Like seriously, it's like because literally when Jason Wright goes out there, and Jason Wright seems like a fine guy. I'm not going to say he's not a good guy.
And Dan Snyder, he sucks. Otherwise, he's we're not going to like rip on him.
Dan Snyder sucks, but when you're looking at it, you cannot say, "Oh, this resonated with the fans." Go check your polls that you gave out that meant nothing. I mean, yes. Red Wolves. Everyone wanted
Commanders
that thing.
Was never in the mix on the polls.
Yeah, and that's the thing is everyone's saying like now, oh yeah, the Commanders. No one really hated it back then. Yeah, it's because it wasn't even a runner. It wasn't even in the race.
Considered it as a possibility.
It was like Cambodia or something like that running the 100-meter dash. Like they're not going to win. So it's like you're thinking about it. No, I mean not trying to rag on Cambodia, but let's be honest.
I mean, come on, man.
I mean, let's be honest here. So you're looking at it and saying, I mean, go along with the Olympics here. But that's the biggest thing is you're just seeing these names come out. Everyone was like, you know what? We hate that the Redskins are gone and stuff like that. But you know what? The Red Wolves is badass. Let's do the Red Wolves, stuff like that. And now you're going to throw this video out there, this making the brand video saying, oh yeah, we're going to bring in this fancy lawyer to tell us how it is with trademarking and stuff like that. Like I said, there's tons of Cardinals out there. There's Cowboys out there. I mean,
they could have made it work. I think they could have found a way to make it work if they really wanted it to.
Oklahoma State and the Dallas Cowboys. You don't think that's going to be?
How are these other organizations doing that? You're one of the richest franchises in the world. I'm sure you could have made it work. If you wanted it to be Red Wolves, I'm sure you could have paid somebody to do something. I mean, like we're talking about sports here. Like what. It's so stupid. And by the way, I mean I know we like the jerseys. I know we didn't hate, and I know like the black jersey looks cool. But I'm so tired of teams realizing how stupid we are as fans. If they can just give you a black jersey, like all the fans automatically love it. Like it's I feel like that's always the case. Yeah. It's like any sort of team. If you just give them a black jersey, the fans will be like, "Ooh, we got a black jersey now. That's awesome." It's like, all right, like how stupid are we that we just eat it up? And look, I'm guilty of it too. I love a good black alternate jersey, and this one looks pretty cool. And I'll be excited for the Commanders to actually wear it. Hopefully, they wear them often. I mean, the worst thing to do is show us that jersey and then put it on the field once next season or something like that.
Yeah,
we'll see.
I mean, the jerseys, people are like not really hating on the jerseys. I mean, there's some few out there that are saying like I don't like the white one. I don't like the maroon one.
People were like comparing the shade of the like burgundy and stuff. It's like, come on, you again, losers. You're losers. If you're paying that close of attention, you're a loser.
Yeah. I mean, the jerseys, I think I like the jerseys and stuff like that. I think they're fine. I think they, the black one's pretty cool because I do like the black helmet, the black jersey, black pants, black socks.
Yeah, and that will look great. Like, I'll get jacked up for that.
Yeah, it will. And I think they should wear those for the primetime games, to be honest with you. But
sure.
You're just looking at it and saying that the jerseys, they're fine. We just don't. They botched the whole entire announcement thing because that was an embarrassment, just like everything else this dynasty has done over the last. Don't call it dynasty. This franchise has done over the last two decades. And then you're looking at the name itself, and like I said, it's middle of the road right now. But I just think that this would have been so much better. The botch wouldn't have been harped on all the time. If you went with Red Wolves and figured out a way to do that, or done Wolves, or done, something else that, like Hogs, something like that. People were so hyped up about Warthogs or even Red Hogs, and you call them the Hogs, and then everyone's like, that's paying homage. Burgundy and gold still fits with the Hogs, stuff like that. Right. And you could have done some crazy caricature,
especially if you aren't doing a rebrand like they're claiming to do. All you did was give this team a different name and a black jersey. The colors are still basically the same.
Yeah.
So if you were going to do that, why not tie it still back to, like you said, the Hogs or something like that? Like, if you're not rebranding this team like you're claiming you are, then why not shout out the past then? Like, why not tie the name to something like that? Include red in there or something along those lines. Instead, now we're the Commanders. Like, it just doesn't work.
They say that they are understanding of this fan base. This fan base is great. This and that, and this and that. And they say all this smoke. They literally blow this smoke up us all the time and say, you guys are such great fans. And then all of a sudden they give us a poll, and Commanders wasn't even in the freaking dictionary at the time.
I've never saw a poll with Commanders even on it.
And all of a sudden it's like the first thing. So I have a co-teacher, and she literally asked me, the first thing she said was, she started clapping her hands. You know how they used to do in grade school when they're doing syllables, and she's like clapping, she's like counting the syllables, and she's like, well, what are they going to call them? And I said, they're going to call them the Durs. It's just weird because even her who doesn't, she's a different fan. She doesn't follow the Washington football team, Commanders, DCFC, whatever you want to call them nowadays. She doesn't follow them. She's a fan for a different team. I forgot what team she likes. I think it's the Titans or something like that. And she literally sat there and said, "That I'm not even a fan of this team. That name sucks."
No, it
like you think about it, it's just an underwhelming time. That's just the thing. It's an underwhelming botch of a name. It's an underwhelming name in general. Some people can like it if that 2% of the people out there that like this name. You can say all you want, like it means power, it means strength. Like, okay, we don't need some weird name for strength. You think I think that the freaking the Vikings are mean something? Do you think that I think that there's so many Bears in Chicago? Like, sweet, I don't care. I don't care. Just give me a cool name that if you want to go, like I said, back in time and say the Hogs, get Mark Schlereth out there. I love Mark Schlereth. Get his ass out there and talking about the Hogs name or something like that. People get so jacked up and pumped, get a little juice injected back into this fan base. But no, the juice has been leaked out.
We're the Commanders.
We're spilled all over the freaking ground. It's terrible. Now they have these stupid lawn chairs. They're announcing the name on today's show. I mean, come on now. Like, do something, man.
What a joke. This franchise is still a joke until they prove otherwise. It really is. And I hope they do well this upcoming season. We still don't even have a quarterback. I mean, it's just a nightmare. But hey, they gave us some football talk in February, so I guess we'll be
aha.
We'll touch briefly on the hardwood.
The Washington Wizards.
From one joke of a franchise to another. The Washington Wizards, we just want to touch on this because the trade deadline is 3 days from now. So, of course, whatever may happen with this team at the deadline will be after we record this episode and before we record our next episode. So just touching briefly on something that we talk about pretty much on a weekly basis is the Wizards and the possible movement of some of these players here at the deadline. It was reported by Quentin Mayo that the Wizards have submitted an offer for Sabonis. We don't have the terms of that offer. You got to think the Indiana at this point, they know a lot of teams are interested in Sabonis. They're going to hear everybody's best offer, and probably if there is going to be a deal made for Sabonis, it's going to be on the last day, like leading up to the deadline. So my guess is if the Wiz are able to get Sabonis, we're not going to know till the 10th probably. So the rumor is you got to think that maybe a guy like Rui or Denny or even both would be in the mix in order to get Sabonis. You'd have to probably involve some picks. One interesting thing I saw on Twitter, and I wanted to get your take on this. So you look at the Chicago Bulls right now, and obviously they're struggling because they got a lot of guys hurt. But if you look
COVID,
at the Bulls,
everything like that,
yeah. If you look at where the Bulls were last year, you had a star in Zach LaVine who was towards the end of his contract, kind of in a similar situation as Beal, making the decision of whether or not to stay in Chicago. And the Bulls were able to bring in some talent like Alonzo Ball. Of course, they made the trade for Vucevic. And next thing you know, a guy who was supposedly going to be out the door decides to stay, and the team did him right by putting some more talent on the floor with him. And now the Bulls I think they've fallen back down to like fifth or so, but they were a top 3 team in the league when they were winning this season before the injuries. There could be some parallels to the Wizards here because
they're back up to second, by the way.
Okay, so there you go. So as much as we think that there could be a pretty good chance that Beal walks, if the Wizards pulled off a move like bringing in Domantas Sabonis, and then you build around and then Beal says, okay, when I'm looking at things now, I'm looking at Kyle Kuzma's going to be here for a few more years. Domantas Sabonis would hopefully be here for a little while as well. I may re-sign with this team now because now you've got 3 legit guys, and then hopefully this team could spend some money. Even though if they re-sign Bill, they won't have much money left. Bill will be getting like $48 a year. But still, you could see a case for Beal to stay in that situation if they bring in a guy like Domantas Sabonis.
Yeah, I'm looking at Sabonis's contract right now, and he is an unrestricted free agent in 2024. So as of right now, they would have him under wraps if they somehow deal him for the next 2 years for under $20 million. And for his output, that's pretty intense.
Tremendous player. If you haven't watched him play, I don't know what you're doing. I mean, I know Indiana games aren't the most exciting, but the guy's just a stud. He does everything. He rebounds. He scores with the best of them. He can defend. He is like if Daniel Gafford had some post moves and the ability to shoot and that sort of thing. I mean, he can protect the rim. He's not quite as tall as Daniel Gafford, but he's a talent for sure.
I think he is as tall. I think he's 6'11" for what it says on here.
Then. Yeah.
I mean, I totally agree with you, though, that I never really thought of him being 6'11". I thought he was like a 6'8" type guy.
No, I guess that's why he might be coveted. I mean, with the height and his skill set, I mean, yeah, he would be a huge asset to this Wizards team.
Right. And right now he's averaging in only 34 and a half minutes. He's averaging 19 points, 12 rebounds, and 5 assists. I mean, that's just stellar numbers right there because he's leading in 3 of the main categories. He's leading the entire Pacers squad in, like I said, assists, rebounds, and points. And that's the type of guy that you're looking at. He is, I don't want to even say a poor man's, but he is basically a poor man's Jokic. He is basically a poor man's Jokic because Jokic does all that kind of stuff too. But Sabonis doesn't really have the triple-double abilities like a Jokic had.
Yeah,
Jokic
he doesn't pass as well. The Joker passes really well.
Yeah,
but you're right. But he still gets some assists.
So.
For sure.
Yeah.
But real quick with the Chicago thing, I even have a note about it. You could consider this similar to the Vucevic deal that Chicago made last year. Now, Vucevic, a little bit different player, but a good skill set. He's a shooter. He can rebound. The Bulls traded Wendell Carter Jr., Otto Porter, and some picks in order to bring in Vucevic. And again, this was a sign for Zach LaVine at the time that, hey, Zach, we're serious about this, about trying to become a contender here. We're bringing in a talented big man. Why don't you stay here and we could build something? That's why I feel like there could be a chance that Bradley Beal could possibly stay if they pull this off.
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest thing is obviously with the Bradley Beal situation, that if they do, pull this off, then he might think differently because he does have that bona fide, I don't really want to call him a superstar, but I do like my power forwards to get those type of numbers. I mean, it's not that easy to come by to find those type of numbers. So I would say he is like a fringe. He's a star, but he's a fringe superstar. I would say.
Right. Yeah. No, I'm with you on that.
So I think that would definitely sway Bradley Beal and like, hey, maybe I should, pick my game up a little bit and stop playing as horribly and trying to basically see if they want to deal me, because we've seen him time and time again, over the last, month or so, just kind of quit, it feels like, on this team. And, it's kind of hard to say he's quitting on the team, because I think that's wrong to say, because I think, he might just be having a down year in general. But just like you said earlier in this year, he looks like he just checked out kind of thing. But if you get him, you get Sabonis, you have to, obviously, as we said before, you have to get rid of one of the bigs. You have to. Right. So that would possibly be Rui. You never know. I think that they really want to do something, you get rid of Thomas Bryant, and then if you want to get rid of Denny,
who wants him at this point? That's the only problem.
Exactly, but that's the biggest thing, is you're looking at the upside with the age. I just don't know if they're really wanting to get id of Rui as it is right now. Because you look at Denny. Okay, yes, he's good. Defensive player. He's turning to that guy. He's only 21 years old. But the picks is the biggest thing for me, because I don't really want to give away those picks, but just seeing how we finished over the last 2 decades, where we're always getting this, besides John Wall and Bradley Beal and Otto Porter, it feels like we're always getting like 9th and stuff like that, which is like, oh, it's right. It's an okay pick, I guess. You're not getting that Anthony Edwards or anything like that. So I just think in general, if they can get him, if they can somehow sway to get Sabonis, I would take him, because you're going to get him for another 2 years. If you re-sign Bradley Beal, that's two tough years.
And even if you don't re-sign Bradley Beal, you would have Kuzma and Sabonis and the money to spend, because you wouldn't have spent it on Bradley Beal's contract. So you could possibly go and get another piece in the offseason. It puts the franchise in a better situation than if Beal walks and they don't get anything from him and all you have is Kuzma, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
There's no future there.
And that's another big thing, is if they somehow can get Sabonis, that would be a huge deal, for the sole fact that, like you said, if Bradley Beal does walk, you have him and Kuzma, but he's not going to break the bank like Bradley Beal is going to try to get. Because Sabonis, right now he's making, I think he was making, I had it right here somewhere. He's not making that much.
Like $20 million a year or something like that.
Yeah, I think it might have been something like that, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe it was $20 million over a certain amount of years. I forgot exactly what it was. But he's only 25 years old. You could sign him on a next deal for, say you sign him for 7 years. Okay, you get him for 7 years, getting that type of production until he turns like 33 or so, and then you can cut ties if you really need to. That'll give you the wiggle room, and also you have guys on this roster that are young and actually can produce numbers. I mean, if you keep somehow Denny, and he can be that number, that not the number 3 guy, but he can be that type of 3-and-D type of guy, even though he doesn't really shoot that many threes. I just think that you have the young roster here that you can make a push with if you don't keep Beal and you get Sabonis. Now, obviously, I like the big man that can protect the rim, which we haven't had in forever. The big man that can score, he can pass decently, and then we just need to find that guard. Guards are half the time now are a dime a dozen. I mean, usually now you can see guards more so than big men in the draft that you can get. And now, yes, it kind of sucks because we might not be able to get a top 5 pick in the near future. But like you said, Bradley Beal is going to break the bank. I think that we can still, like, if we didn't have Bertans' salary, that would be a huge help.
Yeah.
But just looking at it, I just think that if you get Sabonis and Bradley Beal walks, Sabonis is not going to command $48 million. He might command like $35 million or something like that. You never know exactly what the number is going to be. But if you have him, like you said, that kind of sets us up for the next 5 to 7 years or so.
Not a bad backup.
You're going to re-sign him. So
not a bad backup plan. But yeah, you got to think the only problem with all this stuff is you got to have a dance partner in these trades, and you got to have teams that are actually willing to take on what you're trying to give them. And the Wizards don't have that many great assets to give. That's why one of those young guys like Denny or Rui may have to be in the mix of this, because there's really not much other talent on this roster that other teams would want. Harrell is a possibility. He's on an expiring contract, I believe. So if a team wants a rental basically for the end of the season, I don't know. And then another big question before we move on is also like, is it too little, too late. We're about to hit the All-Star break here. This team is in 11th place. If they bring in Sabonis, would they be able to have enough firepower to try to move up to a play-in game position, that sort of thing? That's another big question, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. So, we'll keep an eye on this. There's a couple days away. I mean, it's February 10th. It's crazy. It's almost here already.
Yeah. Last thing I'll say is I'm hoping that they can make a move for something, something positive, because the season's, it started off hot and stuff like that, and it was fun, everything like that. But lately, with the drama with Gafford, and then you have, all these bigs coming back, and it kind of messed up the cohesiveness of this team and different things of that nature. I just think they need to make a move, and they need to make it with an addition, or they need to deal some people.
You got to figure it out.
We got all these young guys, like I said before, but you need to start dealing some of these guys, because right now, some of these guys are just proving that they're, like you said before last week, they're just role players that are not role players like a Draymond Green. Draymond Green, for instance, and I always go back to him, especially him the most because you watched him at Michigan State, but you're looking at it and saying Draymond Green is one of the best role players that have ever played this game, because not only is he a role player and knows what to do, and that's why people don't think, oh, he doesn't put up the stats, how is he one of the best? It's because he brings that IQ, which makes everybody on the floor better. And that's the thing. It's not just Steph out there. When Draymond or Clay is hurt, Steph can't do everything by himself. Yeah, he's great. He'll go out there and score 55 points a game or whatever. But Draymond brings that extra oomph to the team, right, because he has that other intangible with the IQ. And right now, these players on this team don't have that secondary intangible to make them over that little hump of just a role player that comes in for 7-8 minutes a game and gets 2 boards.
Gives you something, yeah.
You're just a guy. You're just a guy, and that's why they need to start.
Too much pressure on Bradley Beal to be the guy at this point. It's just not working out. So we'll keep an eye on the trade deadline here. Keep your notifications on, people, because it's going to get spicy. As far as nothing really to talk about NFL Roundup wise, again, Super Bowl Sunday. That will be a blast. Looking forward to breaking that one down on Monday, even though Monday is going to be more of a relaxed show because we're going to be celebrating ourselves and our accomplishment of 100 episodes. The Caps this week, Tuesday against Columbus, Thursday at Montreal, Sunday at home against Ottawa. And then the Wizards tonight against Miami. The Wizards have a nice little homestand here. They're playing the Heat tonight at home. Thursday, they'll be playing Brooklyn at home. And Saturday, the Kings come to town at home. You can probably beat the Kings. Miami's going to be tough. Brooklyn's going to be tough. So, I don't know. This could be a rough week, I think. It's just not going to be great. For the final lap, Mike, I'm going to change it up a little bit because there's one story that has dominated sports in the past week or so, besides Tom Brady retiring, Brian Flores. And I wanted us to just touch on this briefly because it is a wild story. So, you should all be familiar with this story, but if for some reason you're waking up from a coma, Brian Flores sued the NFL, the Dolphins, the Broncos, and the Giants. There's a 58-page lawsuit filed on Tuesday last week. Flores alleges, this is one of the many allegations, Flores alleges Dolphins owner Stephen Ross allegedly offered Flores $100,000 for every loss, including ownership getting pissed at him about wins. Ross also arranged a secret yacht meeting with a quarterback. They didn't name it, but it was a premier talent quarterback on this yacht, which completely violated NFL tampering rules. And Flores was like, no way, dude, we're not doing this. Ross did it anyways. And then Flores was fired, of course, which was the big surprise with all these head coaches getting fired because the Dolphins, first back-to-back winning season since 2003, and they fire Brian Flores, which was the most surprising name of the group. Other pieces of the puzzle, the Giants apparently threw him an interview for their head coaching job, but Flores received texts from Bill Belichick, who was meaning to text Brian Dabble, whose also first name starts with Brian, and he accidentally texted Flores saying, like, you got the job or whatever, and then Flores is like, is this supposed to be for Brian Dabble?
I haven't had my interview yet.
And Bill Belichick was like, whoops. And so basically, Flores had an interview with the Giants, per the Rooney Rule, and had to show up to this interview knowing basically that the job was already filled. So his interview was a complete joke, which is embarrassing for all parties involved. And then Flores alleges the same thing happened in Denver, including John Elway showing up an hour late and hung over to the interview. Apparently, he'd been out drinking the night before, which, from what I've heard from people, that's not like an unusual thing when it comes to John Elway. So, wild story. Still so much to go. I know they're in the process of like discovery right now in the legal terms, so like they're still gathering evidence and putting a case together. But Mike, when this one dropped, it was like it was pretty wild, because if all this stuff is true, I mean, we're talking about some of the craziest. I mean, $100,000 for loss. I mean, that's fixing the games almost. I mean, you're paying a coach to lose games. That's what you're trying to do here. It's insane.
I mean, the biggest thing when you're talking about the Dolphins, we'll start with the Dolphins real fast. The Dolphins, like you said, kind of fixing games, trying to tank because they were trying to get Joe Burrow, different things like that. That's a serious allegation. And if you can prove it from a track record and a paper trail, then that's a big deal. And then you're also looking at the violating the NFL tampering rules. It's one of two quarterbacks. It's Tom Brady or Deshaun Watson. It was one of the two. Again, going by the date from one of the articles I saw, it was Deshaun Watson because Tom Brady was already on the Bucs. But we also heard that it could have been Tom Brady as well. That's it's another rule break. So you're
not the most egregious of things that happen, but still you're breaking rules left and right. Yeah,
exactly. So that's not a good look for the Dolphins, not to mention that it was already a weird situation when they fired him, like you said, after back-to-back winning seasons for the first time in 17 years or whatever.
The Dolphins were fun to watch this year. It's like, what's going on?
And Tua was progressing a little bit more and everything. So that was weird. Then touching on the Denver thing real quick, I mean, if that's something that happened, whatever, that's kind of hearsay for the most part. Because obviously, how do you know if someone's hungover?
That part. But apparently, the Flores is alleging also that basically the interview was a joke. Like that basically they already had their man. They already had Vic Fangio lined up. Now he didn't have the exact proof, like he had quote unquote proof. Again, all this stuff has to be proven in a court of law. But like he didn't have the text from Bill Belichick saying like, "Congrats, Vic, you got the job," and then it was to Brian. But
well, that's the funny thing. That was the biggest thing. First off, is that Belichick, texted the wrong Brian, which we've all done. But at the same time, you would think and say, all right, when you're typing in a name, make sure you get it right. It's not like
you're texting something like this.
It's just kind of funny because you look at that and that he didn't even have his interview yet, and they already hired a guy. But to try to satisfy this rule, that apparently now they need to start, going over again because apparently this is a big thing.
Apparently this is like one of those like worst kept secrets in the league that like this stuff. I mean, we're not going to dive into the whole race aspect of it because like, we're two dopey white guys. Like we're not going to dive into race talks here, but like apparently there's a lot of issues going on here that and a lot of things need to be changed and restructured, and they got to figure this stuff out.
If Bill Belichick already knows that this guy got the job, and then he texts the wrong guy that, hey, nice job, congratulations on getting the job.
And the guy's got his interview like the next day.
He's like, dude, I haven't had my interviews in 12 hours. Like, what are you talking about? I got the job. And he's like, he's like trying to backpedal a little bit.
That's
and Belichick doesn't care. He doesn't care because he didn't do anything wrong. All he did was text the wrong guy. So
Belichick's expression probably didn't even change during this entire exchange. Like it just was still stone cold.
Right. I just think that we're going to have a lot more information come out in the next few months. With probably screenshots of texts and emails and different things like that. Because this is now I'm not going to say I know exactly what can happen and what can't happen for if they find out these laws are broken or rules are broken or whatever it may be. But at the same time, you're looking at this and saying it's not a good look for the NFL. Not a good look for the NFL when you have three, billion-dollar franchises or whatever the heck they're worth. Going out there and breaking rules and doing all these different weird stuff. Obviously Belichick didn't help the situation, but it's just not a good look. Not a good look.
Also, the NFL claimed they did their own investigation and they found nothing wrong or whatever like that. And it was after a day or something, and it was how could you possibly do your own investigation on this? And then Daniel Snyder's name's thrown out there as far as how the NFL has been involved in the Redskins stuff, and it's just. It's a story to keep an eye on, we'll say.
Going along with our whole entire name debacle that we went over before, that's something funny too, is during the Today Show, when they were talking about the name, it's supposed to be about the name. All of a sudden, they start bringing up whatever I forgot the guy's name already. Craig Melvin starts asking about the sexual assault stuff and this and that. I'm like, this is supposed to be a happy day and stuff like that. They already botched the name. Now they're talking about the allegations and all this kind. I'm like, Jesus Christ, you got to play that high.
Craig Melvin. It's just, I would just say this again. This Brian Flores thing. What's going to happen is a lot of people are going to forget about it, but it's going to slowly be there in the background. You're going to be getting little bits and nuggets of information here. And I would just tell you this, sports fan, just pay attention when this sort of news comes out. I would pay attention because I think if you add it all up, it's going to get interesting. Let's hit up the trivia as we near the end of the show here. Again, you can play along at home as you listen. As Mike will give me a DC trivia question, I will give Mike a Detroit sports trivia question because that is the cards that I have and the cards that he has. I will go first this time, Mike.
All right.
Here is your Detroit sports trivia question.
Ready.
What 6'11" German led the Wolverines to the 2018 NCAA basketball title game before being selected 25th overall by the Lakers in the 2018 draft?
That would be Mo Wagner.
Well done. See, I figured you'd know because you got obviously the Wizards connection when he played for DC, but I didn't know if maybe 2018 was 4 years ago. Thought you might forget, or you might have said the wrong Wagner name, but you got it right. Yeah, Mo.
Franz is his younger brother.
Franz is a stud, and they play on the same team now, so it's kind of cool. They're both on a terrible Magic team. So
I think that. I knew that he played for Michigan. Was that Beeline? Was he there at that time?
Yeah, Beeline was probably still there because we're talking 2018. It might have been his last year there or something.
Right. I recognize Wagner more so for the Michigan part of that question rather than the Lakers. I totally forgot about the Lakers. I didn't even know he got drafted there. To be honest with you. But anyways, all right, check one for me. All right, here we go.
Well done. You've been doing good here. I feel like I've gotten 3 weeks in a row wrong, so I really need a redemption here.
We'll see. I think this one you might get. This card not too bad as well. So we have a nice little streak of good cards here. Here we go.
Okay.
What? I was gonna say something. I was gonna say it, but I'm trying to reword this here.
Okay.
What player? Here we go. This is easier. What player did the Wizards acquire in 2004 that sent Jerry Stackhouse and Christian Laettner to a different team? I'm not going to tell you the team because I think it's too easy for you.
I feel like this is the.
So what player did the Wizards acquire in the 2004 trade that involved Jerry Stackhouse and Christian Laettner going to a Western Conference team that I'm not going to name? So this one's a little bit, you would know it. If you know the year, you know it.
2004 Western Conference team. Okay, I get one question.
Yes, you do.
In my mind, I'm thinking this is for a big man. Is it for and when I say big man, I'm talking center or power forward? Was the trade for a center or power forward?
Yes.
Damn, I should have asked, did this guy play for this team for a while? Initially, because I'm thinking about the time frame, and I'm thinking about because those were the teams of we're talking about the Caron Butler years, I believe. We're talking about the Eaton Thomas and things like that.
Eaton. Its name is Eaton, man.
We used to call him Eaton. I feel like this is my guy, Anton Jameson.
That is right.
Anton
Jameson. He was a really good player. He
was
like a Sabonis, but didn't get as many rebounds.
He was awesome. Shooter. He was awesome. I mean, he was a likable guy. No, I loved Jameson. When the Wizards started getting bad, he was one of the few guys that were still, because those were the Jameson, Haywood, Butler teams. There were definitely some years. Gill for sure. Javaris Crittenton, some interest there. That was a good question. All right, last segment here, the money line, sponsored by DraftKings. Two of our picks are unchanging from last week because it's Rams and Bengals Super Bowl picks. I believe that line is now 4.5, so I'm just going to add that. I have the Rams here minus 4.5 versus the Bengals. That's my lock for the Super Bowl. And my dog, I'm going to go Bulls and Suns tonight. Suns have a fun stretch of the schedule here. I believe they have Bulls, they have Bucks.
Suns have a fun stretch.
And they got yeah, there you go. And they have one more kind of a Philly. I think it goes Bulls, Philly, Bucks for the Suns this week. So that will be fun. The Bulls obviously injured. It's a tough stretch for them, but I'm going to say they are able to cover the spread here. 7-point dogs against the Suns. Just throwing it out there, Mike. That's my dog this week.
Not a bad pick. Obviously, my dog's going to go down the same route. My lock is the same as last week. Under 50, I believe the line now is 48.5. I'm not changing that, though, because I already locked it in at 50. So I'll give you the 4.5, though, because that's even, that's worsening your odds.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So my dog is, it's a weird pick. I was going through the NBA games, and obviously this is going to be tough for our money line picks here coming up after the football season because the lines aren't going to be really released within like a couple of days.
Right.
So I'm going to go with OKC plus 12.5 versus Golden State tonight. I believe they are in Oklahoma City. And the only reason I picked this game is because obviously Oklahoma City sucks and Golden State's good. But Oklahoma City, look at this stat. 9-4-1 against the spread in their last 14 games.
Okay.
So against
that's like the Lions of this past NFL season. They would always they were a great pick against the spread for sure.
Yeah, you get those late baskets or late couple scores.
Yeah.
After you're down by 27,
okay.
You start covering it. So plus 12.5. Obviously, if they lose by single digits, I win. But at the same time, I'm going to go with that stat with a 9-4-1 against the spread.
That's Mike doing the research, people. He does it for you. So, you're listening to this show. Go ahead and lay a couple shekels on OKC plus 12.5.
They're going to lose by 37 tonight.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be a blowout.
They're going to have a 33-point half.
That's going to set a record in the NBA, 175 points. But yeah, those are our money line DraftKings picks. If you're curious about our record on the on this like recent stretch
season
here, I'm 20-21. Mike's 22-19 right now, so he's got a little 2-point lead over me still, and that's where things currently sit. Well, that about does it for episode 99. Come on back next week for episode 100. And Super Bowl breakdown, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to that. And by then we'll talk about whatever move the Wizards have made at that point, because we would have passed the trade deadline. It's crazy. We'll talk about Valentine's Day. That's a week from now as well. It's a wild time here in DC Crossover Land, but the best way to keep in touch with us, follow us on Twitter at the DC Crossover and at Cerrone16, and of course follow the Contender. That's Contender with a K. Go download the app. Go follow him on TikTok, and that's some other ways to find out about the show. Man, Mike, it's pretty crazy. 100 episodes. I mean, we've done more episodes together just through our other shows and things like that. At this point, we've probably done close to 300 or so at this point.
Right.
But for this iteration of our partnership here at the DC Crossover, one away from 100 eps.
Next week is going to be kind of crazy because I just thought about this. And it might get us in some hot water because we have the Super Bowl on Sunday.
Right.
Then we have Valentine's Day on Monday.
Oh, that's true.
So we might get screwed.
We'll have to figure it out. We'll talk about it. We'll keep you updated, people. Yeah, Mike has to say, hey, I'm sorry, lovely girlfriend of mine. I got a podcast to record. We're going to have to. But hey, look, you could go to like a 6:30 dinner or something like that. I mean, we usually should finish around this time.
You could.
You'll have to have a discussion after the show. Make sure she's in a good mood when you talk to her, I would guess.
Right.
That about does it for this episode. We'll see you guys next time. This has been another episode of the DC Crossover.